Hello, today's video I'm so excited about. I wish I'd had this resource when I was learning English. I'm going to take you to Fox Type Grammar, this brilliant website that I've only just discovered. Come with me and teach yourself grammar. So here we are, we're on the grammar page. Don't go into the editor section yet. Just type in what you would like to learn from. I'm going to start with a really simple sentence. I want to learn. And it tells me that I have two verbs here, want and learn. And I have a personal pronoun. A pronoun takes the place of a noun. So that's me, Mr. Salles, and I takes the place of that. And then I've got this interesting idea here. I have a verb, want, but I also have an auxiliary verb, to learn. An auxiliary means helping. So the main verb in the sentence is I want. The secondary verb, the one that's helping, tell me what I want, is to learn. So that makes it an auxiliary verb. Okay, well, let's go a step further. I want to learn grammar. So my sentence didn't need a noun in it. I want to learn, but it did need something in place of a noun, which was a pronoun. And we've learned that a sentence also needed a verb. Okay, what part of speech is grammar? Well, okay, it's a noun, and it tells me it's singular. Well, let's add an S and see if that changes things. I want to learn grammars. Yes, look, it's recognized that that's plural. Just get rid of that. Okay, have I learned anything else that's new? Not yet. I do know that this makes sense on its own, so it's still a sentence. Let's make it not make sense and see what happens. So that doesn't make sense yet. It's not telling me that though, is it? But it will tell me that in the editor. Okay, now I put a longer sentence in. I want to learn grammar because it will make me a better writer. And I start to look at what it's teaching me. What are my other verbs? Make. It will make me a better writer. Good. Even though it's in the same color, writer isn't a verb. No, it's another noun. Okay, I can understand that. But I've got now a modal verb, will. I can work out will isn't normally an action, is it? Make is the action. So there's this new thing that I haven't learnt before, which is modal. Let's change will to might and see what happens. So let's just give that a go. And that's also modal. Okay, so now I'm learning something new. Modal means that I'm changing my verb to say something might happen or it will happen. So the state of whether it's going to happen is a modal. Let's see if I make it can't, which can't, whoops, can't make me. There it is, it's also a modal verb. Now, the reason I love this site is whatever level your grammar is, just by changing the words and seeing what happens down here, you get to learn what's going on. So I've got a new color here, the adjective, which is the word better. And what it tells me here is the adjective modifies a noun. In other words, what kind of writer am I? I'm a better one. That's telling me how that noun, the writer, is modified. Well, let's change it. Let's see what happens if I turn myself into a blue writer. Good. It's still an adjective and it's still modifying the kind of writer I am. And so I'm getting to understand what adjectives do. They modify the noun. They get me to understand it in a different way. Okay, let's change the sentence. Because it will make me a better writer, I want to learn grammar, mastering the placement of the subordinate clause. So the subordinate clause is the bit that has a verb in it, but doesn't make sense on its own. So mastering the placement of the subordinate clause, is that on its own a subordinate clause? Well, let's see, has it got a verb in it? Yes, it does. Okay, does it make sense on its own? No. So that is a subordinate clause. I get to understand that. Now you can see that the main clause is always shown by the main verb. And that tells me this bit here, I want to learn grammar, is my main clause, the bit that makes sense on its own. Now, the reason that's so important is when you add to the subordinate clause, you always have to use commas. And look, here we go. Sorry, when you add to the main clause, the main sentence that makes sense on its own, you have to use commas. And this teaches me that. It says, Mr. Salles, want, the bit with want in it is your main clause. Bang, there it is. You've added a subordinate clause here with the verb make in it. You've added the subordinate clause here with the verb mastering in it. So I've learnt to punctuate by learning the grammar. And if you didn't understand all that, just play around and you'll get there. I know that clause here is my noun, and subordinate describes the noun. Remember, it modifies it, it changes what I understand about it, and gradually I build up a picture that helps me learn grammar. Okay, well, once I understand the grammar, I can start imitating other writers. So I've just imitated that sentence that I had up here before about mastering grammar, but I've changed it to a thief. Because she wanted to be a better thief, she started to pick locks, mastering the cracking of the basic bolts. And I can follow through the grammar again. I can see that it works in exactly the same way. And the great thing about putting my subordinate clause first here is it tells me that she wants to be a better thief is the most important thing, not that she's picking locks, because she might go on to do all sorts of other things to become a better thief. And that's important information. Knowing she wants to become the better thief first is much more important to me as a writer. And that's why we have subordinate clauses that we move around the sentence. But unless you know that a subordinate clause must contain a verb and a noun, you won't be able to spot them and move them about. So let's test that. Wanted is here. It's an adverbial clause, it tells us here, because it's modifying that main clause there. So that's a subordinate clause. I didn't realize that the grammar wasn't going to call them subordinates. It was going to call them modifying clauses. Okay, I can understand that. I quite like that, because subordinate doesn't tell me what the clause does, but modifying does. So if I call it a modifier, it tells me it modifies the main clause. I didn't know that till I got on this site. Look, I've just learned something new. And that's exactly what's going to happen to you when you start playing around. Anyway, I hope you really enjoy this site. You can put anything in it just to learn. I mean, you don't have to learn all of this. I haven't gone through and taught to you about determiners. You will need to know about direct objects at some point, but not now. I'm not going to teach you all of that. Auxiliary verbs, we're not going to get into nominal stuff. It's interesting that what we call connectives, because they call markers, discourse markers. So that's something new I might learn about. Anyway, I've shown you the site to show you how easy it is for you to use grammar. And obviously you need to be able to use nouns, adjectives, verbs and adverbs and identify them for your English exam. If you can't identify those, you are sunk. So go to this site, Fox Type, and give it a go. Good luck.